All right, I'll call to order this meeting of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability and Resilience at 6:01 p.m. And we'll go through the roll call. Tara Dundale.
Here.
Here. Justin Vassell. I'm here. Rebecca Payne.
Here.
Here. Christopher Miles.
Present.
Present. Zach Hammerman.
Here.
Here. Councilmember Rollo. Not online. Alex York. Absent. Maria Arstead.
Here.
Here. Daniel Brodowski.
Here.
Here. And Ross Carlson is absent. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. We're good to go. Okay, so we'll start with the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes anyone wants to propose to the agenda as it was circulated? All right, and we don't have anyone online, so we can do voice votes and stuff for the time being, at least. All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion. Second.
And a second. Perfect. All right, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda is approved. That brings us to the approval of minutes. We'll start with the April 28th, 2026 minutes, which was our special session where we received the report from the O'Neill School's capstone. And what we circulated around were really more almost like memoranda than full-blown minutes, but has all the important details in there. Any corrections anyone has to offer to those? Nope.
Maybe there was no business at that meeting.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't, no. And maybe while we're here, we'll bring up the June 9th minutes for the regular meeting that we had last month. Are there any corrections to that? We can just approve both of these in one chunk if there's no corrections to either. Okay, do I have a motion to approve both sets of those minutes?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. And any abstentions? Okay, both of those minutes are approved as circulated. Brings us to public comment. I don't see anyone in the gallery, and I don't see anybody online. Great. We're almost done. No. Okay, move on to commissioner reports. We'll do the chair's report. How's everybody doing? Staying cool? Yeah, no kidding. Like, we could stay later, actually. Okay, so just some organizational updates to start. So we're bidding farewell to Quentin Gilly, who is in our IU sustainability spot on the commission. So he's moving on from that position. So wishing him the best and greener pastures ahead. And just want to thank him for his service on the commission. He's been with us since, I think, November of 2024. And so I want to thank him for that. And yeah, we'll look forward to the next appointment from that position. But yeah, so at the moment that puts us at 4 vacancies. Oh, and Alex is here. Welcome, Alex. So yeah, 4 vacancies, including that IU seat. And yeah, I think that's, do you guys happen to know if there are like applications in the queue?
Usually I'm notified.
Okay.
Is
So-
that is that appointed through a particular path? Like, is there a position where someone holds that position, occupies that relation for IU to the commission, or is it something that like anyone there can apply for?
It's appointed by the IU Office of Sustainability. So yeah, Quentin was appointed to fill that role on behalf of the IU Office of Sustainability. So we'll reach out to them tomorrow just to hopefully figure out
They just
maybe
pick
by the next
someone.
meeting.
It's from somebody on
Yeah.
the staff in that
Yeah.
office, I think.
Yeah.
Because before it was his boss.
Yeah.
Before he was in that role.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some mayoral appointment vacancies as well. So if anybody knows anyone who might be interested, invite them to go to onboard and
Are
apply.
all 3 or mayoral or any of
Yeah, 3 mayoral, and then the 4th is the IU sustainability. I was gone last month, so thank you for Zach for standing in and chairing that. What was that?
Sorry, I said, wow, that was just
That was
a month
a
ago.
month ago. I know.
Feels like 3 months ago. But not any reflection on that meeting specifically, but much has happened in between.
Yeah. Speaking of things that happened in between, everybody got a copy of the new like grant, working group grant processes that Sean and Jolie sent out in the past month. Some of you might also be aware with the old ones that we have, because it's been a little while since we've gone through the process, and we've had some new folks on the commission since then. So basically, there's some funds that are available to us through ESD every year, and in the past we've sort of set those aside for what we call working group grants, and there was a process by which a working group could apply for a specific project for some of those funds. There's a couple changes to the procedures going forward, starting from this year. It's, I think, a little more streamlined, which is good. So something for folks to be thinking about are, ways in which we might want to, use this money. In the past, for example, we've had Canopy Bloomington go and replace some trees that had died after being planted at various spots around the city. And so that was a great use of those funds. We got some new trees out of it all around town. So stuff like that. If we don't really have a very organized working group sort of thing anymore, but any group of commissioners could get together to sponsor a project. And some of the key changes now are that you'll have to have a community partner of some sort. So that could be a small business, a nonprofit, a school, neighborhood association, that sort of thing. And the idea is that they would be sort of the leads who are actually implementing the project, right? Let's see what else. The funding levels are one of the new things. So $7,000 total for 2026. And by the way, if I get any of this wrong, please feel free to jump in. 1,000 of which we can dedicate towards supplies. So that's a new thing. We've already spent some for the Earth Day stuff this year, so I think 575 is what's remaining for the rest of this year. So anything that you think the commission needs for those sorts of events or anything like that, yeah.
So the question I have is whether there is an existing list of needs or desires that would help guide where to allocate funding, and if not, if it would make sense to create a repository of project ideas or things that would benefit from having money spent on them.
I think the answer to that is no and yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah, please.
I did a lot of outreach to different orgs last year, trying to get some of this money out, so I can put together who I've already talked to. A lot of them didn't pan out just because it was the timing of it was such that they were like, we don't have capacity to do this now, but maybe we'll start now. This was maybe October of last year.
And am I correct that this is for calendar year 2026? The $6,000? Okay.
The funding has to be encumbered. Encumbered, is that the right word?
That's right.
By December, before our December business meeting, I think. It's in the thing, the actual deadlines, but we have a year, right, to actually to complete the project.
Okay.
That's what the previous one was. I don't remember if that's part of what's changed.
So say you reach out to an organization in November, you come up with your project idea. As long as we have a really good proposal put together, we can get a grant agreement put together. It doesn't have to be executed, but as long as we have that draft, we can encumber the funds.
Okay.
There's a list of community partners, or can we just add any if they're not already on there?
We don't have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so the document spells out what kind of
The
partners
criteria.
would be, the criteria for a partner, but if they're not already kind of on file with the city, I think they have to fill out some paperwork to kind of become an approved vendor through the city. But if they're already on the list, that makes it even easier, I think, a little more streamlined. And then let's see what else I want to say about that. I encourage everyone to look through the document. It's a few pages, and it will give you a pretty good idea of kind of what goes into it. So maybe I'll just ask if anyone has any questions about that that process, So in terms of what we could actually do with this stuff and how do we brainstorm these things, maybe I'll transition into the next topic here, which is we talked about doing a strategy planning session at some point, or a retreat or something like this. We've called it a few things. That might be a really good candidate for that. We're part of, in addition to talking about what do we want to do as a commission in terms of things like resolutions or other work like that, is there a list of sort of initiatives that if we just had some money, we could make some progress on? Let's build that list and prioritize it, and maybe think about what kind of supplies we need. We were going to hold off on scheduling a planning session like that until we'd had an opportunity to go through the training, the citywide training for the boards and commissions. So now that that's passed, I think we could probably talk about getting something like that scheduled again. I'm thinking that maybe September is an ideal time to target, just because, as we'll talk about a little bit later, we're hoping for an extra meeting in August to do a joint session with the Environmental Commission. So I don't want to overload August with a bunch of extra meetings. So maybe September. We sort of talked before about doing, do we just do an extra 2-hour session or something on an off week than we normally would meet, or do we do like a weekend thing for a couple hours? I think we're probably not going to be meeting at any one time for more than 2 hours or so, just to kind of keep things focused and be respectful of everybody's time. But whether we try to fit 2 of those in a month, or maybe just 1 on a weekend or whatever, we could try to nail down those details and get it scheduled, and come up with some goals for things that we want to actually walk away from those sessions with, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
One resource that we might be able to look into for community partners is, for a list that's already generated, is the Monroe County Public Library maintains a list of nonprofits, I think. It's not necessarily the most up to date, but it would have a lot of. I'll see if I can find that resource.
Okay. Nice. And speaking of the grants, sorry, I'm just looking up a message. So a couple years ago, I think now, we used to have another set of funds that we could issue grants through, called the Sustainable Neighborhoods Grant. And one of the projects that we did there was I forget in which neighborhood it was, Covenanter, I think, buy some of these bins that people could put things that you normally can't recycle, into those bins as like a community, and then they get shipped out to a place where they can get properly recycled. The company was called TerraCycle. And Matt Austin, who was commissioner here until earlier this year, reached out to me today and mentioned that the Waste Reduction District in Monroe County is participating in a hefty pilot program through Rumpke that's very similar to TerraCycle. And so you can basically buy these orange hefty bags at online from Target or Walmart or Amazon or whatever, and you can pick them up, and then you can basically do that same sort of program, ship them back, and send all sorts of kitchen waste that you normally can't recycle out. So that's kind of cool. Matt pointed out that hey, we did that first, here in Bloomington, and now, maybe it's because of that trial, or maybe it just happened. But hey, it's a wider sort of service that's kind of being trialed now. So something exciting. I just wanted to mention to everybody. Let's see. Okay. So for resolutions, so we passed resolution 2026-05 last time about the anticoagulant rodenticides and traps. And so that's been transmitted to, at least I think, a vast majority of the recipients. There's maybe,
a handful there. So
yeah.
All the city people then.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think there's still a few stragglers that we have to send, but Zach and I have been kind of splitting that up and getting those out. Let's see. Thinking back to resolution 2026-02, which was our automated license plate reader, flock cameras type stuff. No new announcements from our end, but just things that have developed since then, which I'm sure most people have probably heard of. that the mayor had announced in April that the city is going to transition away from Flock, but there wasn't a timeline specified. I think, as far as I can tell, the LPRs are still installed around town. So, if we're interested, we might consider sending like a letter to the office of the mayor or something, where we ask for an update on that transition timeline and process. That's something we could pass at the next meeting or something if people are interested in that. Resolution 2026-03, which was the Kirkwood pedestrianization, just an update on that. Ordinance 2026-12, passed the council before they went on recess, and then that one was and so that would have reestablished the closing of Kirkwood during the summer months, and then that was vetoed by the mayor, and so the council, if they want to override that veto, would have to do so at their next meeting, which will be when they come back from their summer recess. So just wanted to provide those as sort of news updates on things that we've passed recently. Internal updates, so strategic planning retreat. I think I've mentioned before that I'll, send out a Google thing to try to help schedule that. I haven't done that yet, but I will do that, and we'll try to get something on the books for September. One other thing that I think would be a good topic of discussion for one of those sessions would be looking at bylaws rewrite. Something we've sort of talked about a little bit in passing before. I know Zach's kind of taken a look at that. He's got some ideas of changes that could be made, but there's some things that just need to be changed, like old references to parts of the code that no longer exist because they've been moved to other parts of the code. There's a couple typos and things like that in there, and things that would make life just a little bit easier, like not being so strict on exactly how the agenda format needs to look, so that we can kind of change things around ahead of time. But then we can talk a little bit more about, what sort of procedures and stuff do we have in place that are, working well for us, which things are causing friction that we might want to think about doing things a little bit differently, and we can have some of those discussions. Try to put that all together into one big package.
Can I ask you a question about the letter that you brought up? Is a letter, if we wanted to write a letter as a commission, does it follow the same process as a resolution, sort of business wise? Is it effectively a resolution, or is it a different?
So I think there's, it's like, you could read it in different ways. My reading on it would be that it's not, because it's not really formally stating like an opinion of the commission, but just asking questions. Mm-hmm. So I would read it as it's not, we could pass it in one meeting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we never really strictly define anywhere what exactly a resolution is. So it could be argued either way, probably. So if anyone feels strongly about that, wants to.
And for the capstone project, I wrote a memo and we passed that in one meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So
the city's guidance has been, you can do that, you just need to vote on it.
Yeah.
You need to vote on it twice, not you need to.
Yeah.
Right.
So if our bylaws are neutral, we can just follow the city guidance. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I would think too, for something like that, especially if we're requesting additional information, the longer it took us to write the letter, that information might come out and then it may become irrelevant.
Yeah,
So-
makes it hard to write.
Yeah.
Some things like that on a
Sort of
reasonable
more time
timescale.
sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. Good question though. And then just something just on the back burner is the chicken flock size ordinance, which came out of a resolution we passed last year. So Zach drafted up some specific UDO and BMC changes that would support that resolution. I think we're mostly just waiting on a sort of more opportune time to engage with council and try to kind of get that on their radar, which might be coming up soon once they're back from recess. And I think they've got, I think they have a permanent council now, right? Or maybe
They're
not.
Still hiring one, but they have
They are,
a
okay.
temporary one who's
okay.
very experienced. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Either way, we'll probably just look to Councilman Barallo for guidance on when is a good time to kind of bring that forward. But just want to keep it on people's radar. A couple external updates. IU is doing their Economic Development Summit that they do every year. It's on August 3rd this year at the Alumni Hall in IMU. I don't think they have an agenda yet, but right before this meeting, I typed up some chair report notes, so I'll send this around to everybody. There's a link on there if you're interested. I think that's mostly it from the chair's report. I mentioned the joint session that we're hoping to do with the EC in August. We're talking about that resolution today, so we'll maybe kind of hold off on that for the moment. But I think there's the logistic challenge of just getting two commissions in the same place at the same time, and then there's not quite a challenge, but just some logistical planning that needs to be done in terms of how does that actually go. And I think we have a pretty decent, Zach and I talked about this a little bit. I think we have a pretty decent idea of like how that would actually flow. Both sides has to notice the meeting, of course.
And each commission is subject to their own independent quorum.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So each side, once they were there and we call to order, there would be one chair, either myself or the chair of the EC, and calls the meeting to order, and then both sides takes their attendance, establishes quorum, and then when we do votes, it's the same sort of thing. One side goes first, then the other side
It's
goes.
essentially just two meetings happening simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah, just coordinated meetings. Yeah.
It's less complicated than it sounds. You just
Like they're on one side and
not even necessarily, but you just the main thing is you have to keep track of each commission's votes independently. That's the main.
Yeah.
Everything else is like a regular meeting.
If we were
just
going to
yeah.
pass something, we wouldn't need a majority of the people in the room. We need a majority of the EC members
Yeah.
and a majority of the
Yeah.
BCOS members.
Yeah. That's the main logistical challenge. Everything else is just people in a room, like we normally are in a meeting. Yeah.
But it should be fun.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll send an email to you guys tomorrow because we're targeting August 18th.
the other A1. Yeah.
You're right. It has been like 3 months since we. August 18th is what we're targeting. Council chambers is the obvious choice for that because it's a big space.
Yeah.
I didn't see any meetings like on the public calendar at the moment, so fingers crossed that the space is available. But I'll touch base with you guys and we can chat. But I think the EC talked about it, and I think that most of them are available on that date.
Yeah, and that's the main reason we're going with August 18th because that's when they're available. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. So if people want to check their calendars at some point, before we leave today, and you could let me know if that date works for you, that would be helpful.
It does work for council chambers.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Very, very good.
Does it work for at least one of you two as well? I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Oh, do we have to have staff liaison from each commission or just one?
I think technically, but I'll let you.
We'll let staff figure that out.
I don't know.
Fair.
I'll review things for sure with the clerk's office just to make sure, but I'll
Okay.
I'd be glad to be there either way.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. All right. I think that's the end of my report. Sorry, I was a little scatterbrained. I just put it together like an hour ago.
It's okay.
That's a very good summary.
Oh, thank you.
Good update.
Any questions for me? Okie dokie. Oh, yeah.
Question. In terms of, first, tell me if this is more appropriate to discuss later, but in terms of a retreat, have you discussed sort of the nature of that? Like, when that term is used, I think of something that is sort of, that plus wanting to spend money on it suggests a sort of like other place where we all go and sort of engage. And as I remember, there were issues with quorum and open door laws. Have those issues been sort of clarified, or is it still a kind of question of how we would gather together without violating open door laws?
Yeah, I think as long as we have a quorum, for the full body, and we publicly notice it appropriately, then we should be fine. I think, retreat is maybe not quite the best word for it anymore.
I'm excited. I think of like wine coolers when I hear that.
Yeah, that probably won't happen.
No zip lining.
Didn't see on cats.
That's right.
It's a less structured planning session.
Yeah.
So it's subject to the,
Yeah, a workshop maybe. Yeah, exactly.
No campfire.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
No s'mores.
that would be nice, but it's tough to get all those ducks in a row. In terms of where we would have it, I think it would be nice to get out of the building a little bit. One place I've thought about is I've got a membership to the mill, so we could reserve the space there. They've got like a pretty large conference room. We'd still be in a conference room, I guess, in that case, but it would
a different conference.
Yeah, it would be a couple-minute walk that way instead of right here.
That one's special.
But if anyone has any other ideas of where, wherever we go, it just has to be publicly available and accessible. So like,
and in city limits, Like we
Yeah,
could go to
I
the
mean-
southeast branch of the library.
I think there are interesting opportunities there then, because I think there are some locations within the city, like maybe owned by the Parks Department, that might be of interest.
I think
The mill is a possibility. You will understand my hesitations around the mill in some regard. I wouldn't rule it out though, and I am interested in. I think it's a great idea to go somewhere else. So yeah, I think that's a good thing to look into.
Yeah, if anyone has like ideas of places, definitely would be open to considering. I'll put it on the Google form.
And the other thing about Parks Department property is even if another department is borrowing it, they still kind of charge our department a fee to use it because they have to staff it. The Parks Department staffs it.
Okay.
So, so it wouldn't be free to do that, unfortunately.
But that is like, the idea is we would earmark some of the budget toward that purpose of like facilities rental for this meeting, if I understood you correctly earlier.
Yeah, would that be an appropriate use of the supplies fund if we decided to go somewhere where we had to pay some money for stuff?
Like a strategic meeting
Like,
feels like a non-controversial way to apply that money.
is it like very expensive, or is it?
Probably not. I think like less than $100.
Okay,
So
we're not.
yeah.
It's not like a
nothing
massive.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
We're
look
gonna
into
blow
some
the
of
whole
things
rest of the
and see.
budget.
Yeah.
I've
I think
rented
I've
like
used-
shelter houses
Yeah.
at parks before. That's very
Sometimes
reasonable.
I didn't know if they like give a discount. I just
Okay.
didn't know the order.
The public rate is reasonable. I imagine if there's a discount, city rate
It's
is
equal.
Yeah.
right.
Even
Yeah.
And we
Right.
and we've used library spaces before,
Sure.
the downtown branch,
Yeah.
but with the cut to library hours, it's a lot harder. Those spaces there's just fewer of them,
Yeah.
Mm.
especially
There's the
the
new
larger.
library.
But that's outside of city limits.
What?
The southwest branch is outside of city limits.
I think we could be
county library.
technically be outside
It's
of
county
city
library,
limits.
yeah.
For
I know
me.
this because I reached out to the library about doing one of those working group grants for some like native plantings, and where they really need the money is the southwest branch, but it's
Interesting.
outside of city limits,
Okay.
so it was ineligible.
I'll keep air conditioning and public access and accessibility in mind, and I'll see if I can find anywhere that's good. That's possible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. Any other questions?
Not a question, just a
Sure.
comment. I think the mill is a good option. However, it is, the doors lock at 5:30, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not technically open to the public either.
Yeah.
Right. I'd have to
Yeah,
check
we
with
wouldn't just
people
walk
there
in.
about how that would work. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So maybe not an option, but.
Look out, switch yard.
Oh.
It's fun.
The pavilion echoes so much, it's so hard to hear.
That's it.
It's so hard to hear in there.
It's a bummer.
Could be in the band shell thing.
Sweet.
It'll be September. It'll be like only like 80 degrees there,
pool
right?
party is what you guys
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Go to Bryan Park.
Yeah, there we go.
We're discussing things.
All right. Well, yeah. Give it some thought, and if you come up with clever ideas, shoot me an email or something. Yeah.
I think that this is also a really good indication that there are not enough
Yeah.
indoor third spaces in our community. Maybe that's something that our commission could push for more of.
There you go. See, now we've got a topic of discussion as well. Excellent. Okay. Anything else? Comments or questions? Okay. Well, we would normally go to a report from council, but Councilmember Morallo is not here. Does anyone have anything interesting that they've seen going on at council during this recess that they want to mention to people?
Does anything go on during recess?
I think there's been a handful of hiring committee meetings or something, but that's about it.
There is a draft ALPR ordinance that's been circulating. It's not public yet, but they are moving on something that potentially could completely ban ALPRs in the city, so that's good.
How long is the recess?
Yeah, when do they come back? End of the
July
month or
22nd.
something?
Yeah, the end of the month.
Getting close.
No, the end of the month.
At the end of the month.
22nd.
So, so next week,
That's our next meeting.
next Wednesday.
Maybe of limited relevance, not connected to that, but you just reminded me, as of today, New York has imposed the first nationwide moratorium on data centers for an entire state.
Yeah.
Very proud.
Yeah, that's good.
Exciting news, precedent set, so worth keeping our eye on.
Indianapolis just banned or did a temporary moratorium as well, so which is good. They've had a ton of them there, so anyway.
I happen to be, as part of my work with Purdue, I happen to be reviewing the ordinances, like municipal ordinances across the state for language related to like BESS, like battery energy storage systems and solar. I think I'm going to be reviewing solar arrays coming up.
Okay.
And so I'm not too deep in it yet, but it did make me think of this group because Indiana doesn't really, Monroe County doesn't really have, to my knowledge, or at least on this report, this analysis that I'm reading doesn't have any language around, or ordinance language related to technology. So I don't know, might be something worth like exploring because we have not too far away a data center coming in. So to think long and hard about what we would want our community to, what rules we should have in place if we think they're coming.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll move on to discussions, not the subject of resolution. So update on Kirkwood. I'll pass it over to you, Zach.
Yeah. Mark Ross present. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, so on Kirkwood, I mean, basically just jumping off what you said, the mayor vetoed, so there was an ordinance passed that would have reinstated the car-free Kirkwood program, as our resolution kind of asked for. The mayor, it passed 5-4, the mayor vetoed it. In order for it to be overridden by the council, they need 6 members to vote for it. It's not impossible. So if you feel so inclined, I would encourage everybody to maybe write to the council members that voted no. There's some cases that you could make about why that's a good thing. If you want to talk more about that, you can talk to me about it after this. I've got some ideas on that. So there's a kind of a group of us trying to encourage the council members to override the veto. But yeah, so that's the main thing I just wanted to say. Like you mentioned, the mayor vetoed it, and we'll see what happens next. Yeah. So and it would be the veto would have to take place, like you mentioned, at their July 22nd meeting. So that's all I had to say. Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I realized the next item here was commission priority planning meeting, and I think I already kind of went over that.
Yes.
So. All right, resolutions for first reading, 2026-06, minimizing light pollution and attaining dark sky certification for Bloomington. So, Zach, back to you.
Yeah, so typically on first reading, we don't do a long discussion, but considering this is a fairly complex one, we thought maybe it might be a good idea to just kind of walk through briefly what it would do. So all of you have a package that I printed off. There's a memorandum in there. If you didn't have time to read the whole thing, that's fine. But please read it before our next meeting. That'd be great. Basically what this resolution would do is it makes a whole bunch of changes to the UDO, so our zoning code, to strengthen light pollution laws. And I'll just briefly walk through some of that. I didn't prepare anything in particular, but I'm just going to briefly walk through some of the main changes it would do. It would change color temperature standards on public lights. So if you look on page 3, there is a diagram of lighting temperatures measured in kelvins. It would require all city lights to be at the 3,000 Kelvin line, which is that line right here, which the American Medical Association and a whole bunch of environmental organizations have said is you don't want anything higher than that. That's bad for things like bats and birds migrating and things like that, and also bad for human health. A lot of the lights that have been put in place on city, public lamps and things in recent years have been in the 4,000 to like 5,000, 6,000 range. Yeah.
We just put one literally next to, I'm on a corner by Bryant Park, and it is like day.
Yeah, they're awful. Yeah, I agree. And you can tell when they've been put in place. So on that point, piggybacking on that, this chart down here shows 311 complaints to the city about bright, glaring, annoying streetlights. Sometime in 2022, the city started changing from the old sodium lights that are like the old style. In the decade prior to that, they got on average about 11 complaints about bright or glaring streetlights a year. If you look at 2022 and thereafter, and keep in mind 2026 is just through April, they've shot up to 100 a year around that every single year. So they're extremely unpopular. People hate them. the newer, bright, really glaring streetlights. So this would be popular with people, I think. But this chart alone, I think, shows that. People really hate the really bright glaring lights because they're awful. So that's one of the things it would do. It also hold on, let me go back to my list. I'm on page 2. I'm just going to read through the main things it does. On number 2 is an amortization schedule for non-compliant fixtures. Basically, what that means is it requires the city to change all of its lights that don't comply with this with the regulation as written within 10 years. That's probably going to be the hardest sell. The goal of this is to get us to get dark sky status. So I basically just took what the dark sky organization's rules are and wrote them into, and that is one of the rules. So that will probably be one of the harder sells because you'll have to, that will have a cost associated with it, replacing all the streetlights. Dark Sky International, though, just as a point on that, is flexible with cities. If you can't, like there was a city, I think Breckenridge, Colorado, was recognized as a dark sky city, but couldn't quite make the 10-year thing. But they were making good faith progress towards it, so they gave them a couple-year extension. So they're not like a super hardcore stickler on it. As long as you're making good faith effort to get towards the goal, they're not going to rescind your status. So that's probably the hardest sell, and I will admit that. It also will restrict exterior uplighting, so lights shooting up straight in the air. There's a very narrow exception for, it's already existing in the code for flags. I would get rid of that if it were me, but that's politically, that's a very, you can't say, they're trying to take away my flag, that would sound, anyway. So I left that, and I also left one for historic buildings, but you have to have a lighting plan of some sort in place. Probably the strongest thing is number 4, which is that we would require, and this comes from Dark Sky International, would require all public lighting to have a good reason, a really strong reason for it to be there. You couldn't just say safety, and you have to say something specific to that site that requires a light. That's another one. And then on top of that, I added, which goes beyond dark sky, a suggested thing that says near environmentally sensitive areas, so wetlands, creeks, and things like that, it would be even stronger. And basically, you would have to prove that lighting is the only thing that can solve the problem, and that nothing else can solve it. And even if you can put in a light, it would have to be the lowest lumen, the lowest brightness, and the lowest color temperature possible for that thing. Number 5 is an extension of the light curfew. So currently in the code, there's a curfew on lighting that is 11 p.m. for a couple of categories. I would make it 10 p.m. for all categories, so that would extend it all the way to a whole bunch of different categories that aren't covered at all by light curfew, and move it up to 10 p.m. from 11 p.m. Finally, the last 2, illuminated signs would have stronger rules, which I just took directly out of the dark sky rules. And 7 is strengthening rules of light trespass, so that is lights going off of your property into someone else's property. There's a lot more detail to it. I encourage you to read through the resolution before our next meeting and read through this as well. For your help, starting on page 5, the part 2, is the entire code that I'm suggesting changing with the actual changes suggested in the code. The deletions are in red and the additions are in yellow. That would be what we would be suggesting to the council. And based on feedback that we've gotten, it seems like they want more specific wording, so that's what I did. So this is something they could theoretically just copy and paste directly into the code if they wanted to. They could obviously tweak it as they see fit. But the idea here is to really get this into code, ideally. And I have spoken with a couple of council members already who seem very, very interested in this. Now, whether that actually means it will get passed, I have no idea. Whether that actually means we're going to get any of this in, I have no idea. But several members have expressed strong interest so far. So that's where I will leave it for now. Do you have any questions?
And this is a logistic question. My understanding is because we're doing this, the EC is considering this resolution as exactly as
this week, the identical resolution that they're meeting on Thursday.
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. Okay.
And we worked with them, as you can see on the resolution co-sponsor list. I was the main author, but I had quite a bit of help from Alex, Justin, and 3 members of the EC as well. Mm-hmm. We all got together and worked on this and went through several drafts. Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments?
I realize I just threw a lot at you. It's very complicated, I understand. It's a lot of technical jargon on lighting and stuff. A lot of that comes directly from dark sky. I will say, the goal here is to get dark sky community status. That is the goal. My actual goal, that's the goal for the city. My actual goal is to reduce light pollution. And I don't really care whether we get dark sky status. That'd be nice. That's like a cherry on top. This is one area where, and there's a lot of areas where this is not the case, but this is one area that is rare, where incremental, even little bits of progress make a big difference here. So even if we don't get all the way, even if we only get 50%, 75% of the way there, that's still a meaningful reduction in light pollution. I think we have a human right to be able to see the night sky. And that's being denied to most people who live in cities today, and I think that's not needed. So yeah.
We're right in that big migratory corridor
Yes.
too, for a lot of migratory birds.
Absolutely.
And like, it's this came up in our neighborhood because we actually wanted an additional, because we have no sidewalks, and there was a corner that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it was a blind corner, and then the light that they put in was like, well, this is just day to them. We just wanted to not get hit by cars.
Yeah.
But it came up on our neighborhood that we were like, well, we want ones that don't mess with the ability to see the, like, because they have like the capped ones.
Yeah, that would be another thing this would do. It would have
And then
fully define exactly how they have to be covered.
Yeah.
And the covers wouldn't be that crazy to install even on existing lights. And because of right now, it just kind of vaguely defines it in the code. This would fully define it, and not allow any uplighting at all, or it has to put it down basically.
Do you know how any of this would be enforced, like with IU? And I say this as a resident who lives on the north side, who is frequently bothered by light pollution coming from the stadium. I'm curious, like, how that falls into the.
We can't force IU to do anything.
Of course.
But that would be a big question mark on what's getting dark sky status, because I've talked, and Alex has as well with me, talked to the dark sky people, because I had a call with them just to go over this.
Yeah.
And they were very curious about how that would work out.
Yeah, it's a shame this is the meeting where we don't have our IU representative with us, because that would be my big question, because I know that, at least for me, like, that's the single biggest contributor to light pollution in my area. You could quite literally see it from my backyard. So
Absolutely.
It's pretty glaring and obvious.
That'll be one of the biggest roadblocks to this, for sure.
It'd be interesting to see how other college towns have partnered with their universities.
It strikes me that if this were carefully presented, there is a really good opportunity for political inclusiveness here. I think it's very easy to make a pitch that is broadly appealing to most people, with the exclusion of the kinds of holdouts that I could imagine would be private property owners who want to do whatever they want with their lights.
Yeah.
That is something that I think you need to be more. There's a needle to thread there.
Yeah.
But I think it's, at the same time, I can imagine it's easy to go in the opposite direction, where I think I share exactly your goals, and for probably identical reasons.
Yeah.
My concern would be that if we were to phrase things in the way that I think actually reflect our motivations, it would be easy to alienate people.
To your point, this does very little to private property owners.
I don't see. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think this is a great idea. I think it's very easy to present this as practical, both in terms of like overall human environment and like ecological purposes. I think it's a kind of mechanical change that's relatively simple. It really requires will and money. And the longer term strategy, as I'm thinking about this in relation to something like IU, which is that weird carve out, like literally the whole quadrant of the city, is that if you were to actually start making progress on this, it would require a longer term strategy, but you could sort of exert pressure through success and evidence of sort of mitigation and improvement in the city that might leverage IU into making changes down the road. And I'll probably be more willing to follow than lead in this situation, especially current admin. But like, I think it's very doable personally.
Right.
First comment, thank you very much for providing all of the information and the expert. That was very helpful. I really appreciate that. Second comment, I fully intend to vote to pass this to a second reading because I do believe it's within the purview of our commission. I think in order for me to vote to pass it at the second reading and for it to have a chance of the City Council actually considering passing a version of it, there are some changes I would want to see.
Okay.
or perhaps some more information I would want. So some of these recommendations to the UDO changes that mention they exceed the dark sky community requirements.
Yeah.
I would be interested in knowing, why do they exceed like that minimums, and like who came up with that metric?
I did.
And like why did you decide to go farther than?
Because I think it's good to go farther when you can, and I saw areas where we could. My concern is that by going farther than what is just required, it might be pushing too far where it'll just be completely taken off the table. That's I've read this, and but I do need to spend more time with it. Okay.
But that's just one initial consideration. A couple other things, like I'm curious about. So I'm very interested in seeing that Flagstaff has attained this certification, and I'm wondering the requirement of illuminated signs being turned off an hour after sunset, like, is that, I don't see that being popular or council wanting to vote for that. And I'm wondering, does Flagstaff really turn off all of their signs?
I think so. And we're talking primarily like billboards.
Yeah.
What we're talking, not
billboards.
There's
signs.
exceptions for like road security signs that are needed for safety and security.
But like signs on Kirkwood, like for businesses that have neon.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. It's primarily billboards that they're talking about, though.
Because I don't think those would violate. I think what we're talking about, you've got the big upward shining lights on those billboards, whereas if you've got like, you've just got letters that are illuminated, I don't think that would.
Okay, well, good. Well, then, I would need to know more about what the illuminated signs is, and also, if all the cities that actually have this certification, do they actually meet all these requirements? Which of them have received, like, variances? One other thing, and I hate to say this because I love it and I think it's lovely, but the first whereas clause, I would probably move to strike that, just because I think the data-driven arguments in the following clauses are so strong. Like the U report complaints, and this again, it's a lovely paragraph, but I wonder if it might undermine kind of the following arguments, or for people who are, already maybe not looking to support it, if that might, if they might just roll their eyes, So those are just some things that I'll look into more, and I would like to talk about more before voting to pass this, but I will certainly pass it for a second reading.
Okay.
Hi, Alex. So since I helped work on this, some comments to some of those things. First, that first whereas clause used to be 3 whereas clauses in the first draft. So this is the pared back version, if that helps solve. And it was beautiful prose, but we had a similar feeling of like, this might be too much. And so I will say, having talked to some other people about it, they were very engaged in like the humanity of like the rights and the spiritual aspect of it. So I do think that clause does speak to people. But personally, I'm a data-driven person, so like I've read it, I was like, I recognize that this is beautiful, but it doesn't speak to me. So I have a very similar take, but I know that it will speak to others, but I'm just dumb, me, and maybe not you. The Dark Skies is changing their certification process. So one of the reasons to do this now is that potentially gaining Dark Sky certification could be a reason that would help get it passed, that people would be interested. I know cities sometimes, like being bicycle friendly USA and all of these things. So we need to get this moving. If we don't get it moving, the new Dark Sky certification is going to be performance based. where they will actually measure how much darker it is. And between the presence of IU and our proximity to Indianapolis, they just flat out told us that it would probably be impossible for us to get like full certification.
But they did say, just to be clear, that if we show good faith effort on these current status, we can get it if we are moving within the next year or so, approximately.
Yeah. But that also is potentially kind of a reason why where we can to go a little farther, because like we already can't get to be a dark city from a performance-based standpoint. So if there is a place where we can go a little farther, you know, I think that there's some rationale to do it. And we should weigh like, you know, benefits and costs of going farther, but I was generally supportive of that. To the idea that it being kind of uncontentious, I actually expect there to be pushback on the idea of safety.
Yeah.
In this process, Zach primarily, but I mean, I did too. We looked at, you know, trying to find evidence that lighter equals safer, and there isn't really much. But people think that there is. I can tell you, I came to IU in 2006 as an undergrad, and campus is much, much brighter, and they, you know, during my undergraduate years, they had a very concerted effort to, you know, light up the Dunwoods because it was deemed to be an unsafe location with how dark it was, and the lighting on campus has grown considerably in the name of safety, and I think that there will be pushback in the name of safety. Much of that, I think, will not be. I don't think that in general the pushback against decreasing lighting in the name of safety is data driven, that it is that removing this lighting makes things less safe. You know, there are exceptions obviously, but people will feel very passionately that lighting in places, you know, the lighting on your street corner, that it makes, you know, people will feel very passionately that, oh, you want to take away the lighting, you know, people are going to start breaking into businesses, and I don't know. I expect there to be some level of pushback on that front.
I think that's exactly right, personally. The reason I emphasize the property owner is because that's an intransigent sort of position that has basically only a sort of principle-based counter-argument where there's no sort of way to make an argument rooted in other kinds of arsenals. And I think with the safety argument, it is absolutely available to kind of, I think you're correct in terms of, my understanding is that like light versus no light does matter, but the form and sort of shape and expression of the light are absolutely manipulable in a way that can preserve both of those concerns. I think that, to your point, you know, you arrived on campus at a time also when LEDs were becoming available, cheaper and different nature of lighting being installed. I guess I just think like that kind of an argument, I think you're right, it will be the number one pushback, but I also think it's open to really robust kinds of argument that are not against it, but that can demonstrate it's possible to preserve both concerns. That's not the right way to put that, but then I think it's about doing that carefully and effectively. That's what I've meant by about like.
I think it was on Dark Sky's website, but there was a picture that we found in this process where they show like a garage with like a bright light shining from the garage out, and they show a person like standing behind the light and they're completely invisible, and then they turn the light off, and there's a person that's just up here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You need to be smart about how you light things for and the purpose of safety.
Sorry.
Two things that, well, one thing that I would like to know more about is, did in this 311 data, was there an overall increase in all 311 calls or you report tickets? that would potentially explain this?
Not to this scale.
Okay.
Not to this scale.
I think that's worth mentioning in some capacity that this is independent of
Yeah.
just more people being aware of this resource and
Yeah, because we're
utilizing
talking like
it.
a 10 timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like I think on the safety thing, I'm not sure how this would work into the resolution, or I think this more works into the way that we talk about it in session or in any kind of like outreach to council or anybody else about this, is that there is data, pedestrian safety data for young children. Is part of why our schools start so late, is because when kids are waiting for the bus, when it's darker, there are more instances of people hitting children with their cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the solution to that is not pollute the skies with lights, it's people to not drive like dangerously in general, but especially around children. And like I said, in my neighborhood, it was like literally that it was like a terrifying corner to walk on because people would just whip around the corner. And it was dark, and you would there'd be like a deer or someone and their dog, and you're like, maybe tonight I die. So I think making it clear that this is not about like, no, we're not saying no street lights so that you stand in the dark waiting for the bus, but that those lights do not need to be illuminating the heavens in order for somebody to not hit you with their car.
And you have to, and it's not,
because there is data around that, and that does drive local policy decisions around like when our elementary schools start, because we should actually be on the central time zone and we're not. So
Yeah, to be clear, this is not, I know you guys know this, but for the record, this is not about eliminating all streetlights.
Yeah.
It's about being smarter about where we place them and not having them, like you said, illuminate the heavens as well as where, like, it's pointing the light downward instead of everywhere, and changing the color temperature.
I don't think that it necessarily changes the context of the resolution itself, but just like how we communicate it and in whatever we communicate to council or other bodies in trying to drum up support for it if it passes.
Legislators are the people who are the most excited about quote-unquote data-driven language. People who are not in that population are much more interested in felt experiences of reality. And for them, you can turn a light on and have it turned off, and they'll be like, I like this other one better. So I think it's very important. Again, that's what I meant with my initial comment about like messaging and not starting in the wrong place and not being like, well, look, you don't know what you're talking about because the data shows that you're actually like, people are like, no, and I hate you now. So, that's the
how
kind
you create
of thing.
defensiveness.
Yes. Like, if there's one thing in my entire history as an educator and as a member of my family that you want to avoid, is getting people's hackles up. And I think introducing this carefully around exactly this, because it's like, you know, people will go buck wild if you challenge their sense of safety of their children in particular, as you're pointing out. So like, you know, you'll just shoot yourself in the foot instantly if you were to do that. So I think there are probably ways to express this in terms of strengthening safety and strengthening other things. Because I think that's actually true. It's not like a sort of marketing approach. It's more about ensuring that like whatever ethos it is that you and I might have in terms of, you know, right to the night sky and concern about other species, there are also these other things that are there.
Well, driving down a dark street and then suddenly there's a 5,000 lumen light is also
that's true.
not very, it's a disconcerting experience.
Yes.
And I mean, like, I think that this image that you put in here is incredibly compelling, because even though this is a photograph, I am having a visceral reaction.
No, I know, I hate them too.
I'm
popular.
like, oh God, these are the lights that make me.
And that is a widespread thing.
They literally trigger migraines for me, but like that I'm like.
People associate those with
like
environmentalism, though. Also, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Super bright ones.
Yes, because those were installed for environmental efficiency. People associate these really negative things with environmental and ecological initiatives, partly because of canny strategy of opponents to those things. But yes, I actually think there's a win-win. I'm so sorry to use that language, but like here in exactly what you're pointing out, it's actually, it's why I think this is such a strong idea.
This graphic, like, I think go so far if it was circulated publicly. Be like, we want these lights.
People
that
hate these
feel
lights
nice.
genuinely. Yeah. And the data right below it shows
Yeah.
that.
It's not under the purview of this, but it makes me think of like cars that have those LED
Yeah.
lights that are genuinely
People hate them.
dangerous when you're driving, particularly if they're right behind you because you can't see anything
For sure.
in front of you. And personally, I was going to have a similarly very strong reaction to those because, again, I'm very light sensitive and it makes it hard for me to drive at night.
Yeah.
And I think that's like those are the arguments that like really pull people in. I think because I think a lot of people have those kinds of experiences with this type of thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to take away your street light. We're going to make it not feel like
We're gonna
it's
make it.
burning.
Yeah.
We want to make it more
Exactly.
pleasant.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely think if it's presented well, this
Yeah.
will be extremely popular.
Yeah.
The main components of this.
But I do think that,
mhm.
back to what you're saying, it's like, it doesn't matter what the data show. If you feel unsafe walking through Dunn Meadow, and there's all Dunn Meadow, Dunn Woods,
Yeah.
you know, you're not going to care what the technical situation is going on out there. So I think it's just this I think the challenge is going to be the language
it.
that we use,
Yeah.
because this is about this is about people's feelings around safety, and so it doesn't matter. You can tell them all day long that you are actually, safer because we're using this particular lower level light. So I'm in agreement. It's a very, but it's also an opportunity. Like, I mean, not that resolutions are meant to be tools, but like we're gonna have to educate along
Yeah.
with
For sure,
low level education about like, no, it's not less safe. Okay.
An angle of this that we have not discussed this evening that resonates with me too is that also if we are using, lower wattage lighting and, removing excessive lighting things, we reduce energy use as well. So at a time when city budgets are particularly limited, if we can kind of have that long-term view if it will reduce operating costs, that's
I think there was also one of you might have to remind me of the exact details of this, but there was some benefit related to the length of the pollen season.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, that like doing this would actually like reduce how much people suffer from pollen allergies. It's a weird connection you wouldn't expect, but that's when we talk about how we sell it,
that found like artificial light at night significantly extends the duration of the pollen. It's not like a small ink. It was a study that came out this year thanks to, I think Alex sent it to me, or Matt from the EC sent it to me. That shows like a dramatic increase in the pollen season because of artificial lighting, like way more than they expected.
Could be again,
That's a selling point.
I think like this image is like, that is something that people will be like,
Less pollen,
I would
please.
like to breathe,
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to point out for staff is that we can lead the application process. The commission can, according to Dark Sky. So it's not something necessarily that staff would have to do. We could do that ourselves. And that's also for the commission as well to know, a good thing to know. What was the, on your energy thing that you were talking about, the Dark Sky told us during our meeting, this is anecdotal, but Jackson Hole, Wyoming airport got certified, I didn't realize an airport could get certified as a dark sky airport, but they can't. But they said that when they converted over to dark sky lighting, their energy use for lighting decreased 30%. I mean, that's just for lighting, that's not all energy use, but still, that's a substantial decrease in energy costs over time. So even though this might have some costs initially upfront to change lighting to conform to code, so the new code, if this ever gets passed, long term, the savings would be substantial. So.
It's also extra impressive considering that airports are meant to be these giant beacons of light, so that the pilots can see it for miles away. That's impressive. Yeah. Did you have?
Not in my head.
Wild.
So there's a lot more we could go into, but that's the gist.
I have one question. So for the light trespass, do you know currently, like this is obviously, I would think it's driven by like citizen complaint if it's currently happening. And so if there was like an increase in the restrictiveness, do you know like how many complaints the city's currently getting about
on light trespass?
Yes.
I'd have to look into that.
Or like how much staff potentially could increase costs if that was like.
For sure, I could look into that. The main thing that would do with that is for future development. I mean, things would have to comply. There's amortization requirements, so things would have to comply within 10 years. That's primarily for public streetlights, though, the amortization requirement. This
Right.
is all lighting fixtures.
Right.
So on private property, there's not an amortization requirement. So it would be for primarily for new developments would have to comply with this.
Yes.
Is the main thing.
Okay.
So they would, when you go through the planning commission
So
or
it
whatever,
would be
you
during
have
the
to.
planning process.
Yes.
It's not like there would be on the back end a lot of potential staff.
I don't think there would be a lot. I mean, technically, you might be able to file a complaint or something like that. I mean, I think you can now because there are light trespass rules now. These are just stronger ones. So I don't anticipate a substantial increase in that because we're just slightly changing the rules. That would be more newer developments. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't find it now, but one thing that I thought was really cool, or like in my head, I pictured it being creating a corridor of dark skies, and I assume that meant across the nation. And so I was like, that's a really neat concept. And so, I don't think that's gonna, sell this, be the thing that sells this, but it's,
Nice little thing on top,
it's a really neat piece to consider in the overall.
Yeah, so the idea was that that IU, number one, we have an astronomy department here with the Kirkwood Observatory, and we're surrounded by like state forests and state parks that are relatively dark. We could become, if we do this right, play this right, we could become like an astrotourism destination theoretically. So that's one angle that I was trying to push. But.
And I mean, as a sort of like community partners or like people to tap into, like I have learned about this from birders who like people that like travel up and down that like northwest corridor in the migration times to go see particular birds. Like that's how I've learned about like turn off your outside lights during this period of time and things like that. So that's a impassioned group of people that know a lot about this, that are a potential partner if there are communities in the city that that are engaged in that hobby.
Yeah, we have a lab on IU's campus, the Ketterson lab, that's an expert in bird strikes. And lighting in particular is what causes bird strikes during birds hitting buildings. So lighting at night is when they signed off. They wrote a letter in support of the rodenticide thing.
Yeah, I've been Alice Cutter sent them a letter.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
Yeah, I think she would. And just worth mentioning, I did talk to the IU astronomy department, and they were like super on board. So I'm hoping they'll be writing a letter. But for obvious reasons, it would help them like recruit. And also because there's a thing in here suggesting because you require a monitoring program to monitor like whether or not you're having an effect. So I suggested to them like, would you be interested? They were very much on board about having maybe a student project to monitor lighting long term. So I did float that with them because it's a resource that we have in town, so we might as well use them. And they didn't like obviously confirm, but they said they would be interested. So that's worth mentioning.
I could add one positive project that we're working on here. So ESC is providing funding to Parks and Rec to install a wildlife-friendly solar light at Griffey Lake.
Oh, that's awesome.
And by a manufacturer called Stepco.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Can you send me info on that? Yeah. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I suppose I have one question, and I wonder if anyone here can speak to this. The motivation for this question is entirely anecdotal, so maybe someone knows more about this than me, but the more I think about it, the more concern I have that, as I understand it, this would apply to everyone, commercial, municipal, and residential property owner, ordinary type person. That's the way it would be put into effect is, I own my house, I own my yard, I go to Home Depot, buy this light, install it, and then I get a bill or a warning from the city, that kind of a thing?
No.
Okay.
To a certain extent, like on light trespass, I think that might be the main thing. Everything else, it does not apply to single-family residential for the most part. If I'm recalling correctly, it's been a while since I wrote everything, but I don't think it applies to single. I intentionally avoided targeting single-family residential, being multifamily.
My question is kind of.
I think some of the light trespass rules would apply, and there's also a general amount, a limit on the amount of lumens per acre, but it's so high that it wouldn't, unless someone's shooting a spotlight into the air, it wouldn't impact.
Okay, because that's like the American sort of Rage Against the Machine principle of I'll do whatever I want. I think is the source of a lot of revenge effects for like ostensibly well-intentioned things that actually make people be like, I don't want some faceless city representative coming to my house and shaking their finger at me for putting a light in a way that I want on my property. This is the United States. I should be able to do what I want.
Yeah.
I think people don't tend to do that unless they're being challenged, and then they're like, I'll do whatever, and then they react that way.
It's a safety, like they are saying.
Yeah, in particular,
I
yeah.
have the slide up because of safety reasons, so don't tell me to take it
Yes.
down type
But
of attitude.
This is like very anecdotal, but I also think that there is, I appreciate that it doesn't focus on residential. I think because it's like proportionally, like what they're doing is relatively small.
yeah.
Okay.
But that also, I started looking into the ticket data on snow removal tickets. And again, anecdotally, I have intentions of doing like proper analysis when things are quiet in my life. But noticed a pattern that is not, I cannot confirm, but a pattern of residential homes being ticketed and developments and commercial properties getting a warning. And so I think that if we included residential, the way that it would potentially play out in enforcement is that the enforcement would disproportionately fall on the smallest, the smallest contributors to the problem.
Yeah.
That's a larger like issue in how these things get play out in code, and but hopefully I'll have more data on that before the next snow season.
Okay. So yeah, from a logistics standpoint, so EC is meeting this Thursday, right? Yeah, and they're gonna do their first reading of this.
It's not public comment.
And then, if we pass this here today, we won't revisit it until we have that joint session. We do have another meeting for BCOS in between then and now. So that gives us an opportunity. If we had amendments that we wanted to do, we could do it there. The way we do this a little bit different than usual is we probably at least want to know what's coming down the pipe a little bit to try to give EC a heads up of what kind of amendments, we might want to make. Because they're not going to have another meeting until the joint meeting with this date of August 18th works for everybody. So we got to thread the needle a little bit, but I think, if there's some amendments we want to make there, there's certainly ways to make it happen. We've done this in the past with some amendments or with some resolutions, especially more complicated ones, where people make a copy of a spreadsheet and then send, reference the line numbers and say, here's what I would propose as an amendment. And if we can get those all within a relatively short amount of time, we can sort of collate them, try to figure out, okay, here are the big pieces, and try to figure out a plan. Maybe at the end of the day, EC has to do a special meeting or something before the joint meeting to.
And if we don't have the amendments aren't too numerous or lengthy, we could also pass them at the same time.
Exactly. But it would be good to know ahead of time what's coming so that they're not seeing stuff for the first time being like, I hadn't thought about that. And of course we got to do this all in a way that's compliant with open rule.
I would request that you provide, if you have an amendment to suggest, that's fine, please suggest it, but in writing, maybe before our next meeting, maybe, I don't know, ideally. It doesn't, obviously we can't make that a rule, but that would be, I think, ideal.
Could we compile any suggested amendments in a letter to the other commissioner and transmit it to the other commission following that meeting?
Yeah, we could, but we wouldn't even have to. We could just, I could, whatever we, if we voted some amendments or something, and I would just email it to them.
To make sure that this moves on correctly, can I make a motion that we consider this resolution for?
Oh yeah.
That's a great idea.
Seconded.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I can second, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And this is to consider this resolution for first reading and to advance it to a second reading.
I also want us to get the next meeting be like, oh, we
never actually.
We never brought it.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any objections to moving to the, vote to advance this, and then we can try to figure out exactly what things will look like between now and the next meeting? Okay. Perfect. Since this is resolution related, I will do a roll call vote for this. So this is to advance to a second reading. Tara?
Yes.
Yes. Justin? Yes. Rebecca?
Yes.
Yes. Christopher?
Yay.
What was that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Zach?
Yes.
Yes. Councilman Rowe is absent. Yes. We didn't get anyone else on. Alex?
Yes.
Yes. Maria?
Yes.
Yes. Diana?
Yes.
Yes. And Russ?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Great. Yeah, I'll be in touch with instructions over email. The best way to do that. It'll be a similar thing. Everyone sends stuff to me and then I'll compile it and make sure nobody has a chance to discuss all that until we're at a public notice meeting.
I also will say, I mean, presumably, if we are having an entire special meeting in conjunction with the Environmental Commission for only this,
Yeah.
we'll have the time to have some discussion,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if we're gonna have at least an hour and a half, like a typical meeting would be, yeah.
If we just show up, vote yes, and then leave.
And then leave, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been there for, even with 2 commissions and everything,
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
we don't-
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
For that. Okay, we've got no resolutions for second reading. So that brings us to the staff liaison report. Over to you, Sean.
Oh, I didn't know it was on the agenda. Thank you. I wanted to let everybody know that we have published our 2024 greenhouse gas inventory report. It's on our website now. A press release hopefully will go out on Thursday. And I wanted to give a shout out to Zach for your help with the Google data that you were mentioned in the report.
Cool.
And you were acknowledged for your work on that.
Cool.
So that will be available. We'll be launching a new solar grants for income qualified homeowners, hopefully next month. We issued an RFP, we're waiting to get our proposals back. So that will be providing a 5 kilowatt system to income qualified homeowners. That means residents who earn less than 80% AMI will qualify.
Wow.
Covering 100% of the cost.
100% of the cost.
Cool.
5 kilowatts.
And like nothing out of pocket because the RFP means the city is paying the solar contractor directly.
That's awesome.
So, so you don't have to worry
That's
about
cool.
money.
Yeah, as long as their roof is in good shape, it's going to be a turnkey program.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's the limit?
80% AMI.
What's the AMI?
About area median income.
Which is
It depends
on how full size
it
it is.
Yeah.
Very
There's a
complicated.
chart. Yeah. If you Google housing and neighborhood development 80% AMI chart, you'll find it.
Are you guys using one through HUD?
Yes. Yeah. That's about it for now.
Cool.
Something to keep an eye out on legislatively is lots of states have passed like balcony solar provisions, and Indiana, there was a bill to consider that this year that didn't go anywhere, but they've been passing state houses generally like unanimously, which but in the future there could be a program to have like smaller systems and have a lot more of them, but I'm not allowed now, but like future programs, hopefully.
Helping renters.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Have there been sustainable neighborhood grant applications since that was posted?
We haven't received any. A press release is going out hopefully tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to get it back in the news.
Try to get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if anybody here wants to help promote that program, we would appreciate it.
Grandview Hills can share our blueprint for what we did.
Oh, yeah.
If neighborhoods are interested in replicating it.
So for those who don't know, we provide $1,000 to neighborhoods. So at least 4 neighbors, if they get together, they want some sort of sustainability project, such as composting bins, a native flower bed, veggie beds. If it's sustainability related, we will most likely approve it. So $1,000.
Cool. My wild bergamot is 7 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
Approximately. I'm almost 6 feet, and it is well above my head.
That's insane.
Between 6 and 7 feet tall.
I kind of regret planting some now. Like, wait a second, I didn't know I could get that tall.
Mine is planted in a septic leach field.
This makes sense.
Soon
Not
to be
originally.
not. Soon to be not a septic leach field.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well that brings us to member announcements. Anyone have any announcements they want to make? Okay, cool. No new business. So hey, we're early. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we're adjourned at 7:20 p.m.